This is Saad, and with me, as usual, is Gregory. Gregory, how are you and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine and is very warm.
Very warm. I will say hot here in London. Sunshine and little bit clouds, but mostly blue sky. So welcome listeners to this spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushing. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is there is no limit in your journey to perfection. There is no limit in your journey to perfection. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 excuse me 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00 44 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any questions or comments in the chat box there. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushing is the spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the readers again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses. Excuse me, sorry. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there's no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushing. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, I just want to remind you the topic for discussion tonight is there is no limit in your journey to perfection. There is no limit in your journey to perfection. If you have any questions or comments, you can join in this discussion by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Gregory, as you know, I like to look up the meaning of the words in the topic. So just to remind us again, the topic is, there is no limit in your journey to perfection. So the first key word that I wanted to check in the dictionary is the word limit. And there it says, in dictionary, 2 meanings are given. The first one, a point or level beyond which something does not or may not extend or pass. I'll just repeat that. A point or level beyond which something does not or may not extend or pass. What do you say about this definition, Gregory?
It's all right.
Okay, that's good. Let me continue then with the second one. For the, again, the word limit, the meaning of the word limit. A restriction on the size or amount of something permissible or possible. Example they give is an age limit. So there's a, what do you say about this one, Gregory?
It is pointing to the first one.
Right, okay, fine. Let me continue then. The next word I would like to, that I've checked in the dictionary, it is journey. So again, in the dictionary, it says an act of traveling from one place to another. Is that a good one, Gregory?
Yes, but it's too earthly.
Too earthly, okay. Maybe we can go beyond the earthly in the journey. They don't say which place or another place. What is the place, one place to the other? So it's not specifically saying that. But okay, I'll continue. Then it says the last word that I checked in the dictionary is perfection. Again, they give us 2 meanings. First one, having all the required or desirable elements, qualities, or characteristics, as good as it is possible to be. So how is that definition of perfection, Gregory?
It is a pointer.
A pointer.
It doesn't give a precise picture.
Okay, let me try the second one. It says again, this is the meaning of perfection. Absolute, complete. I don't know follow this absolute, but complete, I can get it. So Gregory, what about complete? Being complete, perfection.
Complete is the nearest to it because it provides the conception of what perfection is.
Right. Okay, that's good. We are now setting the foundation for our discussion here. Okay. Again, just to remind everybody, the topic is for tonight is there is no limit in your journey to perfection. So, that means we human beings are on a journey to perfection. That's what this is referring to. Now, Gregory, I've got a first question to ask about this. Can one really become perfect? And
of course.
Just sorry, a little bit addition, because you know this is a spiritual discussion program. So are we talking perfection in the earthly sense or the spiritual sense or both? So just to repeat the question, can we really become perfect, earthly, spiritually, or both?
You have put the question in a manifold way, whereas it's good to first have a very simple picture before it is applied to earthly, to spiritual, to all sort of scenarios. Of course, it is possible for one to achieve perfection in accordance with the laws of creation or the laws of nature, or basically the laws that appertain to that sphere or to that scenario where man is. In that case, it is very possible.
Thanks very much for that answer, Gregory. That really put things clearer in the right picture, you can say, or gets a clearer picture for this. So in whichever world that you are standing in as a human being, you can have perfection or become perfected in that world. And so if it's the earthly, there's perfection possible there. And if it's the spiritual, is perfection possible there. So that's good. That's good. Good to know. And maybe there are other worlds as well, which we will discover. So, okay. Now, the next question, Gregory, in what way can one become perfect? Is it in our strengths, values, behavior? Let me repeat that. In what way can one become perfect? In our strengths, values, and behavior?
That word perfection, the nearest picture in accordance with whatever feature has been attached to it, that word perfection points to completion. So whether it is in your strengths or in your behavior, as long as one is able to act in accordance with the laws that appertain to that particular scenario, then one may say it is perfect. That means it is complete. If, however, that is not the case, in which there have been some problems in it, in which one is unable to accomplish the tasks in that particular scenario, then the not completing the task makes it imperfect.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for again bringing out this picture about being, completing a task, or in that scenario, as you mentioned it. So this is really opening up our to understand what this world that we are living in is about, or what we are meant to be as human beings. So a lot of questions, there are answers being given, but there's also questions coming up when you think about this matter, about perfection, the journey to perfection, and no limit. I mean, let me not go into everything just now. We have to go step by step. So there's so much there. Okay. You said, Gregory, that even at the beginning you mentioned that there are laws, that the laws are applying in this scenarios where we're aiming to become perfect. So the first question again would come up in my mind is, what are the laws we are talking about? Is it like on the earth there are earthly laws, in the spiritual world there are spiritual laws? So what laws are you referring to, and what are these laws?
Whether it is earthly or non-earthly, spiritual or whatever scenario it is very clear that a scenario must have objects, people, whatever one cares to call it. The contents, there must be contents in the scenario. And the scenario and the contents in the scenario are always in motion. So the laws which is referred to in this particular case are the laws of motion. Whether the motion is earthly or non-earthly, that is in spiritual, whether the laws are in the world of matter or outside the world of matter, even in high spirituality or even in divinity, there is motion. So what one is referring to here are the laws of motion through which all that exists came into existence.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer. Again, everything we are saying is bringing a context about that we can look at in this topic, where we are saying there is no limit in your journey to perfection, and which is working any scenario, as you said, Gregory, it has to satisfy or work in the laws of motion. That's what we have to consider when we look at a scenario, the laws of motion. It sounds very straightforward, and then you're thinking, is this the only law there, the law of motion? Maybe there's some other laws, but I guess we will again build on this. So let's continue. Now, one thing we know, Gregory, when we are born on the earth, of course we're talking right now, we are not perfect because we're born as a baby, and somebody has to look after us and bring us up, to be, at least to somehow to adulthood, that we can start doing things ourselves. So that one is something developing there in every human being as they start in the start of their journey. So it looks like we're not born perfect. Now, I'm just trying to think on that. So, Gregory, when we talk about it as a journey, this journey of a human being, is it like learning? How can I call it? Yeah, discovering and learning, Gregory, for us. I mean, my mind is thinking of so many things when I think of this question, but let me just try to keep it straight and simple first. So, Gregory, as I said, we are not born perfect. However, and obviously we can't be as a child, a baby. You need support and guidance and so on. So now, so Gregory, just to understand, is there some natural built-in sort of um, goal inside every human being of what of their need to become perfect? Is there something built in there, Gregory?
In the first instance, the statement, "we're not born perfect," first presents a picture which creates scenarios where it becomes very challenging for the personality to make progress, because it's already assumed that development, which is essential for all that requires to become conscious, all right, that particular scenario, the strive for consciousness and subsequently self-consciousness already means that the human personality, from its initial state, something is lacking. The human personality, before it became a human personality, it was a spirit seed grain. And the possibility is already ingrained into it to move from that state of unconsciousness to a state of consciousness. That is progress.
Thank you.
That journey was not started overnight or a few years ago or at the birth of the individual. Therefore, the concept of completeness must be opened, and at the same time, the laws of creation that placed the individual personality in a family, in a society, or whatever form or state the individual is, those laws are the same laws of motion through which the individual has contributed to. These laws themselves do not change. And that being the case, it assigns to the individual that which the individual had given rise to. So the laws themselves are perfect in meting out to the individual that which they require for them to mature. Therefore, one should be very careful in using perfection just like that. One must consider that an individual needs to make progress, but there is a limit to which that individual can make progress in accordance to the species. It cannot exceed the species. So perfection must be tied to the species.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this picture you have painted there and what you've said there. I just noted your last sentence or two. There is a limit to the species. So just referring back to the topic, we said there is no limit in your journey to perfection. And although I must say, when you look at it, it doesn't sound like a contradiction between the two sentences. There is a limit to your species, and then there is no limit in your journey to perfection. So it means as a human being, we are a species. So there's a limit to a human being, as a species, human being species, but not to its perfection, journey of perfection. So in this context, I think there's no contradiction. I just wanted to get that clear in my mind. Yes.
May I say something here?
Sure, sure.
In the journey to ensure that some tasks which had been set through these same laws of creation, there is no limit, in the sense that that expression was given from a spiritual perspective for the scenario where one started first as an unconscious spirit germ, and in experiencing, not learning, in experiencing, internalizing the structures and the movement in creation, in its continuous recognition of the laws that appertain to different parts of creation, first in the world of matter, and above that in the so-called animistic realm, and finally in spirituality, it continues to accomplish different tasks. In that case, once it has accomplished that which it could in the world of matter, some of it earthly, it has completed it, and therefore one will say it is perfect. And it takes a further step to the realm above the world of matter, and it has completed the tasks. Then, in accordance with these laws of creation, it is perfect. When it then gets back to its origin and continues to experience there in the paradise of man, in the spiritual realm, it is now free to also assist those who are now in the world of matter, experiencing. It is from that point of view able to advise them through one's conscience. So there is field of activity. It does not stop, because motion is a law in creation. And for one to strengthen itself, it has to exert itself. There's no end to it.
Again, thank you very much, Gregory, for how can I say, clarifying and expanding our understanding of this journey of to perfection in the various, you could say, realms or worlds that we travel through, and in making progress. So you become perfect in the earthly, then you enter the next world, let's call it beyond, and so on and so on. This is like a step-by-step process. And you mentioned that it's really a journey of experiencing rather than learning. So that's a different way of looking at it than just learning. Experiencing is more of a neutral word. So it's like if you make mistakes, if you go in quotes, go wrong or whatever, it's just experiencing, rather than you can say, oh, I did wrong, and you make yourself feel guilty, and then maybe you don't go further because of your feeling of guilt. But if you call it an experience, you are thinking, okay, it might have been a mistake, it might have been whatever it happened, but I'm still, continue to experience and keep going, progressing, you can say, however you think of it. the journey continues. So this is really very encouraging, and when you think this way. There's really a lot. This topic is incredibly interesting, and really, I don't think this even one show is enough to discuss what we would like to discuss. So, but we will do what we can. I now want to remind the listeners that you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message, by Aprushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we are discussing tonight is there is no limit to your journey, in your journey to perfection. There is no limit in your journey to perfection. If you want to ask any questions or have any comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, and that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And you can type, if you go to the homepage and scroll down, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And I've mentioned we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to the recording of this show the next day. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is there is no limit in your journey to perfection. And of course, you can listen to our recordings of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, there's let's say, a colleague of ours who has made some contribution for the topic tonight. He's given some of his reflections. His name is B, and he is saying, he's quoting from the, well, not, let's say he's referring to the Bible, I would say. He said, we were created perfect. The fall of man caused the imperfect state. However, the Holy Spirit has given us the grace as an indwelling in he who is in Christ. And then he gives an explanation of that, these words. And he's saying the concept of perfection, both earthly and spiritual, has been a subject of profound contemplation and debate throughout human history. It raises fundamental questions about our nature, our purpose, and the possibilities inherent in our existence. Can one really become perfect? If so, is this perfection attainable in the earthly realm, or is it reserved for the spiritual transcendence? So actually, we've been through that already in our first section of the program, first half an hour. So I just want to start with the first quote, actually, point he was making, Gregory. He said, we were created perfect. Can we look at that, Gregory? Is that really correct? We were created perfect?
Again, it is open-ended, therefore so imprecise. One used the word complete, perfection, or completion pointing to perfection in accordance with the laws through which the individual came into existence. A very simple example. You can have, if you look at the so-called sciences, you talk about oxygen. You know the contents of oxygen. If there is impurity in oxygen, you say it's not perfect oxygen. The same thing with iron. You say it's not perfect. The same thing with wood, because you know the contents. So that word perfection, which in quotes leads to completeness, or to open up a bit, purity. So in that case, you will find the human personality at the beginning was created without blemish. So partially it is correct. However, the overall picture that it presents, we are created perfect. When that word perfection has not been well established, like has been stressed, there are gradations of perfection in accordance to the species. Therefore, when such statements are made, many are only considering things from a spiritual standpoint. But from a spiritual standpoint, how many are able to grasp the concept of spirituality? Many mix spirituality with so many earthly concepts, and therefore everything becomes distorted because they are unable to have a clear picture. And that is the reason why there is this stress on the laws of creation that place man in accordance to how he or she has responded to the challenges, which challenges have been put in his or her way such that they are able to experience and move away from that state of unconsciousness to a state of consciousness, and subsequently a state of self-consciousness. That self-consciousness has to do with the spirit. The physical body that many of us are used to, for that is what we are able to perceive with our five senses, this physical body is only a tool and not the essence. It is the essence, that spark that animates the tool that is being referred to, not what you see on the outside.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer. And again, you could say re-clarifying this picture of our journey to perfection as a human being. There's a number of steps that we go through, and as usual, the context is very important to know. I think there's one thing you've very how can I say, a number of points you've made in your last answer. There's a journey of becoming conscious, from unconscious to self-conscious. That's one, you could say, a fundamental point there. And this journey, although we haven't said it up till this moment in this show, it didn't start on the earth as a baby, that we were born here. Actually, as a we know that we are, at least from our previous shows, we know that we are actually a spirit. On the earth, we live in this body. The spirit personality that we are is living in this body, physical body. So the body is not the living being, it's actually the spirit, human spirit. So this is, so that we existed even before this baby or physical body that we were born into. So there's quite a lot which we haven't mentioned at this point right now, but this is a lot to be, let's say, to be aware of, this understanding and knowledge. And Gregory, when we are born, we don't know these things really. It's everything is discovery or experiencing, even the word you've mentioned before. So, and it's not like we know, oh yes, you have to go here or there. You're not. So there's no perfection in that one, where, okay, I need to go from A to B to C to D. It's not like that. Again, this word experiencing seems to come in, where you sort of, I don't know if you can say you're being guided, or you just, you're just you're born here, and then, your parents obviously are taking, or your guardians are bringing you up, and then, you're discovering and learning, and then asking questions as you grow, and then things somehow, let's say, as you grow, things come in your head, or you discover things. So it's really quite incredible. Initially, you will think, oh, this is getting confusing, but actually there seems to be, how can I say, a structure, maybe the right word to use. There is I don't want to use the word plan, but there's a set structure where you're being born into, or you're growing and developing, or experiencing. So, and if we just, how can I say, be open to these experiences, then things will sort of show themselves. And so that's the beautiful, you could say, life that is there. And I like what you mentioned about the earlier one. You mentioned this perfection is about becoming complete, in a task, in ability, or values or behavior. So this is a good point to be aware of. There's a journey to become complete. So I think that's a good way to look at these things as a journey to perfection. Now, just wondering. Okay, Gregory, I'm going to go slightly on a different angle. Let's talk. We are on the earth now, and people are in the having earthly experiences. And we know some people, Gregory, are born, let's say, with disabilities, or later maybe they have developed disabilities, physical disability, and even mental illness. Now, does this, how can I say, prevent us reaching perfection?
Whatever state the human personality is going through. By human personality, one is referring to the spark that animates the physical body, that animates the soul body. That which you call mental illness is only tied to the physical body, and it's an experience for the spark that is making use of this body, either through its inability to operate vigorously and has full control, or in the case where it needs to experience a particular challenge and then subsequently knows how to respond to that challenge. If that spark, which is spirit, is able to experience and the lessons that has accrued from that is able to make use of it, then it is of benefit to the spark. If subsequently it is not of benefit, in the sense that it has not learned anything to be able to use here or hereafter, then that effort has been in vain. And once an effort is in vain, that is not of benefit, it means the individual spark, that individual spark has not completed the tasks aright. And in that case, the lack of completion of the tasks which creation, which nature has set for it, which task helps it to mature from one stage to another. In that particular scenario, it has lost out and is unable to make progress to rise higher. For the tasks which accrue, which creation urges the individual to accomplish, are the tasks that will bring it from a lower state to a higher state. A lower state with many gradations, it becomes conscious of itself, of the environment, and subsequently self-conscious. That means those innate abilities which have been sown into it are now being brought into activities to be able to resonate with the streams of power, with the streams of the goodness that made it possible for it, the human personality, to come into existence. And the streams of power, the streams of blessings, the streams of goodness has no end. It has no end because whoever has accomplished all that it needs to accomplish to get into the threshold and get back into paradise as a self-conscious human personality still has more tasks joyfully to be able to assist those who are still on their journey in the lower regions, just as he himself or herself was assisted through the conscience, through the blessings that others who are self-conscious, just like others who are higher, mediate to him when he was on that state, so also he or she is now in a position to mediate to others. There is no end to it. That is what that statement refers to.
Thank you very much, Gregory, again for, painting this picture and giving the, an understanding about this, could say this journey of perfection in the context, of this world, how these things really are. We see things with the physical eyes and make our physical thinking that is the way the world is, but actually there's a spiritual viewpoint, there's another broad viewpoint which can switch how you see this same scenario, same situation. So thank you so much. While Gregory, you were talking, there's a listener has contacted us on the Blessed Chat message box, I should say, chat box. And I will just say their name. They call themselves Hepzibah. So the person is saying, I have been prompted to alert the people that there is a great shaking up of the earth. It is now time for the peoples to awaken from their slumber and prepare to hear what is to come. Several messages have been mediated to earthmen to awaken, and it is now high time, as no other time will be permitted. So I just repeat that, Gregory, for the listener saying, I have been prompted to alert the people that there's a great shaking up of the earth. It is now time for the peoples to awaken from their slumber and prepare to hear, that's what I'm going to say, to hear what is to come. Several messages have been mediated to earthmen to awaken, and it is now high time, as no other time will be permitted. Gregory, anything you would like to say on this point or comment?
Such is very cryptic because it said awaken. What does that really mean? Is that only a figure of speech? The only awakenness which is considered in any scenario for the human personality is spiritual awakenness. Was that questioner, contributor, referring to spiritual awakenness? If he or she is referring to spiritual awakenness, then it must be the spiritual awakenness that appertains to the laws of creation, laws of nature. Then it means, therefore, that that personality must also be aware of the laws of nature, of the laws of creation, which are also spiritual laws which he might be referring to. To awaken only means to awaken to the laws. That means to be aware of these laws, how these laws operate, and how the human personality needs to adjust itself to these laws. Hence the work, which work is titled In the Light of Truth. the work which talks about the light itself, the light which animates, the truth which is unchangeable, that truth which is the law in creation, which enables light to permeate all that exists if the content, all the personalities in their activities resonates. But they can only resonate when they are awake spiritually. Therefore, it is important for such that have spoken about awakeness to specify whether it is spiritual awakeness or just be awake from one's bed. For many are awake, but they are spiritually sleeping. There is a big difference.
Thank you, Gregory, for this response. I just, there's one aspect of the point or the person, listener was saying, and I just wanted to go ask you if you can look at that as well, which is basically, he said several messages, I say it's he, it could be a she, several messages have been mediated to Earthmen to awaken, and it is now high time as no other time will be permitted. So he's sort of saying this is the last opportunity to awaken. I know you said it's a spiritual awakening is what you are referring to. So he's saying this is the last chance, you can say, to awaken spiritually. Or you are saying the word spiritually. So is that like, how can I say, is that relevant to hear what he's saying, that the person is saying?
I must say it is completely irrelevant because there was no example. It says several messages. A good teacher will cite an example and not speak in such a way where the persons being addressed cannot hold on to something. That is why it becomes very challenging. You ask me to awake. Awake to what? If you ask me to awaken to spirituality, then the question will be, what are these laws of spirituality? Awakenness, a process of being awake, is motion in itself. Therefore, that process is subject to the laws of motion, which laws of motion had already been discussed again and again as the laws of creation, the laws of nature. It has been stressed again and again. It is these laws of motion, of nature, of creation that enables the man or that spark of spirituality to awake, to be able to perceive and to interpret aright. In accordance to these laws, the impression, this impression may be sweet impression or not so sweet impressions. Whatever it is, these are urges, the pressure which hits the personality to awaken to that which is spiritual, not that which is earthly as such. For the human spirit that uses the physical body, strictly speaking, does not sleep. unless, however, it reduces his motion and he does not bestir itself enough to understand these streams of experiences aright. Then it is asleep. So, with such as you yourself read out, an example, a specific example, is expected.
Thank you, Gregory. The listener is responding to as he's listening to your answer, and on the blessed chat box, and they're saying the shaking up will, after all. Okay, I'm going to make sense of these words. So sometimes some words have been left. So let me just get this clear. Okay, I'm going to add some word here which the listener hasn't put in, but I'm going to put it in. The shaking up will, I will say, clear up all that is false, and only leave that which is eternal. So this is so they're talking about a shaking up, Gregory, that will clear. I'm going to use the word clear up. They didn't put any word there. Will clear up that is all that is false, and only leave that which is eternal. The shaking up will affect all that is false. See, affect. I'm sorry, they corrected it. I didn't see that. The shaking up will affect all that is false, and only leave that which is eternal. So there's a process here, Gregory, the person is referring to. So is there something going on specially there, Gregory, that he's referring to, or he or she?
One would have thought that question should be directed to whoever placed it there. All that is false. How does that person recognize all that is false? All that is eternal. How does that person recognize that which is eternal? Therefore, for the right understanding, the laws of nature, these laws are the framework that determines all that is false and determines all that is eternal. For without these laws, the individual will not recognize that which is false or that which is eternal. So, such statements as have just been made, strictly speaking, have not been put in the right perspective, because the context, which context again and again and again, that context of the laws of nature, of creation, have not been mentioned. Therefore, the laws must be mentioned, must be explained, such that there is the inner clarity of the effects of these laws, such that the human personality will now joyfully adjust itself to resonate with that which is of benefit, which draws it much streams of power that it needs to live aright. Without these things, it's only just cryptic quotations which are of no benefit to the individual or to others.
Thanks again, Gregory, for that. Another listener has sent a message which concurs with what you're saying. People do not see these laws in action, so how do they awaken? So I don't want, Gregory, hold on before you respond, because I just want to say something to the listeners to continue the show. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uptrushin. And the topic that we are discussing before I say that, if you are interested to know about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail is Grail message MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is there is no limit in your journey to perfection. There is no limit in your journey to perfection. And if you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And there, if you scroll down on the homepage, you will see a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any questions or comments in that box. I said we are broadcasting on blessradio1, the number 1.com. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space live stream. That's for the live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day or again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which is tonight is there is no limit in your journey to perfection. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM / Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Okay, Gregory, again, the listener has come up making another point now, or let's say clarifying their point. They said, spiritual beings are eternal beings, but they have a time limit to develop and ascend to luminous heights. If the human being as a spirit has not awakened by the time the awakening takes place. I think maybe that they haven't said it maybe as clear as they would like here. I'll just repeat it anyway, Gregory. It says spiritual beings are eternal beings, but they have a time limit to develop and ascend to luminous heights. If the human being as a spirit has not awakened, by the time the awakening takes place. They're still typing. Okay, they're still typing more. Okay, by the time the shaking takes place. Okay, so I understand now. That's the time limit they're referring to. So, Gregory, they're talking about there is a time limit by which a spiritual being, a human being, has to awaken. And if they don't, they don't say it here, but there is a time limit. That's what they're saying. There's a time limit. So I'll just ask it simply, Gregory. Is there a time limit for human beings to spiritually awaken? Let me say that way, so we can address that.
It is important to first understand the laws of motion. And in those laws of motion, one had mentioned in the past that there are basically two key types. Those laws, first type is where the end of the motion flows back to the beginning. And the other is where the end of the motion does not flow back to the beginning. That's where the end of the motion flows back to the beginning. That already gives you the concept of time very clearly. Therefore, when it is referred to as time limits, of course, there is the concept of time in different spheres. Here in the world of matter and above the world of matter. Therefore, for the human personality to achieve completeness, perfection in a particular species, in a particular sphere, that means to have that which is complete, which means the end must flow back to the beginning, and the state of maturity at the beginning, or the state of maturity at the end, must be greater than the state of maturity at the beginning. If that has been what has been accomplished aright, then it only means the human personality now has a persistent form and therefore has been awake. If, however, the state of maturity of the budding human personality falls far short than its initial state, then one cannot call that progress. One cannot call that perfection, because it has not accomplished that which it needs to do within that cycle, that so-called time frame. So from this simple explanation, one can already see that indeed there is a time frame that is necessary for the human personality to come to a specific maturity. Many a time you have when seeds of apple or fledgling apple trees are planted, there must come a time when that apple tree must produce the fruits. You do not expect it, that the apple tree will keep growing without producing fruits. So also it is expected of the human spirit. The fruits of spiritual maturity, which spiritual maturity is able to contribute to the activities in creation rightly in accordance with the laws of creation that permitted it to become a self-conscious human personality, or permitted it to continue to develop towards self-consciousness. Therefore, there are time limits. You don't expect someone who starts from a primary school, goes to the secondary, and falls back to the primary. The language which is spoken by creation, by nature, is the language of one's intuition. That language, which is a language of pictures, which pictures are pointers. When many say they don't understand because they cannot see, it only gives proof. That means the evidence that they themselves do not investigate. Ever before the time of electricity, lightning has always been there from time. Only he or she who makes the effort to investigate further, only that personality will find. Only he or she who seeks vigorously will find. Else, will find nothing. So, for the human personality to be able to recognize, it has to exert itself spiritually to recognize of the possibilities that are there.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer again. And just building up, our understanding about these laws, of motion. You said one where the let's say whatever we start returns back to its origin, to the beginning, and another one where we don't. We do something and it doesn't return back to its beginning. So these are like two possibilities that can happen. And obviously there are consequences with regards to that. Now, Gregory, I want to move to something a bit different. We did mention it earlier about strengths, values, and behavior. Let me just, because we're talking about a journey to perfection. Okay, let me read what B, who's contributed to the show on this topic, and what he has written. He says, in what way can one become perfect? Perfection in the biblical context is not about flawlessness, but about wholeness and living in accordance with God's will. This journey towards perfection can be approached through the development of our strengths, values, and behaviors. Strengths: utilizing our God-given talents and abilities to their fullest potential is one way to move towards perfection. This involves recognizing our gifts and using them for the greater good, and thereby fulfilling our unique purpose in God's plan. And then let me just continue. The other one, values. Adopting and internalizing values such as love, compassion, justice, and humility are crucial. These values reflect the character of Christ and guide us towards living a life that honors God. Philippians chapter 2 verse 5 encourages believers to have the same mindset as Christ, embodying his values and attitudes. And thirdly, behavior. Our actions and behaviors must reflect our commitment to living a life pleasing to God. This involves daily practices of faith, prayer, and obedience to God's commandments, consistent alignment of our behavior with biblical teachings is essential for spiritual growth and maturity. Gregory, um, when somebody reads this, they may interpret that it is only by doing or living the way Christ lived, almost to say you have to be a Christian. I'm just saying that one can interpret that from these words, that is the way to become perfect. So almost I don't say the person saying that to believe in Christ, but I just want to ask you. I mean, they didn't directly refer to that, but it was sort of from a Christian way. So, Gregory, is there, how can I say, only like one teaching or Christ's teaching that one must follow to achieve perfection? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding what is meant by these words?
Again and again, the stress has always been on the laws of nature, the laws of creation, which laws of creation are an expression of the will that made it possible for all that exists to come into existence at all. There are many who, in their own way, wish to express this as prayer, which prayer is far, far away from that which is meant spiritually, and at the same time, you find, because of many a background, they express themselves on the background on which they themselves grew up. However, the laws of creation do not talk about that which in quotes is Christian or non-Christian, that which is Jewish or non-Jewish, that which is Muslim or non-Muslim. The laws of creation are the laws of creation. Every human personality that has been born to make use of the physical body to experience, when the time comes, that physical body will be set aside and will return to its species. Therefore, it is said dust to dust. But the inner core will move on in motion. Whether that person, whatever religion that person has professed, is completely immaterial. If that does not resonate the laws of nature, laws of creation. So you will find that such as you yourself have read out is very alluring, comfortable. But the real thing that the human personality needs to examine is himself or herself. How does he or she stand? Like it is said, many will say, oh, I do not know of the laws of creation. laws of creation that ensure that you're able to breathe in and breathe out. You don't know of it because you have not aligned yourself to think or to perceive that way. The laws of creation, the laws of nature that permitted you with the five senses of your physical body, you don't know them. The laws that even permitted you with your physical body, the laws that even permitted you as a spirit gem or a spark that need to develop to consciousness of the environment, of itself, and subsequently self-conscious. Such a personality must therefore be asleep. To move away from that state of being asleep to recognizing these laws, that is what is meant to be awake. When creation was made, it wasn't tied to the interpretation of man, which man was unconscious. Therefore, these limited ways of perceiving has only been put there by the individual himself, because out of their laziness, they are unable to perceive more than they are able to perceive now. So the idea that one must align with some religion is false. It's false because if you align with something and that something does not align with the laws of creation, which are the laws of motion, then there can be no progress. To be awake does not mean to awaken to religion. To be awake means to open oneself to recognize the streams, which streams are in nature, are in creation, which streams have an impact on the individual. Any individual that wakes up in the morning from sleep and looks out and sees the sun and sees nature the way it is, have they ever asked themselves how these things came about? Have they ever asked themselves how come they are able to live from one day to the other? Have they ever asked themselves how come they were born and are able to live, and after some time they have to go? These are the questions many do not ask themselves because they are too busy with things that are of the earth, things that are temporal, because of their lack of vigilance. Many a thing which would have passed them by will strike them because they did not recognize how it means to be vigilant. Even when everything has been placed in their path, vigilance is only of the spirit, not of the intellect. For that which we call the five senses are only tools, which tools pass on the impressions they have gathered externally back to their inner core, which tools also, when are tuned aright, are also able to perceive of the vibrations from out there, not only vibrations in the world of matter, but vibrations that are above the world of matter. That is the task of man. How the human personality needs to go to achieve this, let him or her who is bold enough examine this work. Examine the work in the light of truth. Not only examine with their brain, but must examine with their spirit. Only then, or then and only then, in such a manner, will they come, that is the spirit spark, come to a recognition. Else, they all are asleep, for they do not yet understand the streams that are out there, even if they talk about it.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this, how can I say, giving us a direction on how we should be, you could say, seeing things spiritually rather than almost building and relying on other people's views or beliefs and whatnot. We are responsible for our own life ourselves, not somebody indoctrinating us to one point or another point. Each one of us has to weigh and examine, as we are told in the Grail Message. Each one of us has to examine everything individually ourselves. And as you've pointed out over and over, the laws of creation or nature are the way to weigh and examine every point. So that's what, if you can say, the knowledge we need to get into or understand or absorb is the laws. What are these laws of creation or nature through which, as you say, we have come into being, and which are involved in every process of life. So that's what we have to recognize and use our ability, spiritual ability. One of them is the intuition, to assess and weigh everything. So it's a different level. If I were to say whatever has been given in the past, teachings, spiritual teaching and so on, there were beliefs or blind faith. Even in some cases they became blind faith if they were not blind originally. And that's not what we are supposed to. We are supposed to be spiritually awake. And from unconscious to conscious to self-conscious. This is the level that we are supposed, the journey of perfection that we are meant to follow. So you could be looking from, let's say, from a particular point of view or particular way, but this is the journey to perfection that we are meant to go through. And in the end, it will be an individual awakening. That is what it's meant to be. We don't really have to rely on this or that. Just open our eyes to know about these laws and weigh with those laws, use those laws to examine everything and understand everything. So thank you so much for that, Gregory. I've got a question from another listener, but before I go to that question, I want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. And this, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uptrushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is, there is no limit in your journey to perfection. There is no limit in your journey to perfection. You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1. .com. And if you scroll down the homepage, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. As I said, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space live stream. That's for the live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is There is no limit in your journey to perfection. And of course, you can listen to our other recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, I mentioned there's a question or a point, even a question, I will say, from another listener now. I will just go to that question now. I feel it's a bit of a personal question, but I will, I will go, go through that. It says, where is the laws of, or maybe why they're saying, why are the laws of returns so very slow? What does it benefit a person who has done wrong in a past life to be hit by return if they have been reincarnated and no longer know what they did in a former life? Let me repeat that, please. Why are the laws of returns so very slow? What does it benefit a person who has done wrong in a past life to be hit by return if they have been reincarnated and no longer know what they did in a former life? As I said, Gregory, that sounds like a personal question. Somebody is, I think, is asking that. So how would you, what would you say to that question, Gregory?
It is an assumption to consider that the so-called laws of return are slow. And the second assumption is that the person no longer knows. That is not the case. It is in this earth life that the human brain, which is different from that at that time, it cannot remember. But the spirit, whatever touched the spirit, that it knows. So the spirit is aware, but it is the earthly brain which is not aware, because the earthly brain is now different. In one case, say the person could have been a black person or from one culture, and after he's passed on another 200 years incarnated. You do not expect the brain that he had before to be the same brain when he has incarnated in a different place. No, that one has gone. But the spirit, the effect of its activities that has impacted on the spirit, that the spirit knows, and so very well. So that is the case. However, sometimes or most times it must be called a blessing that in this earth life, the opportunity is there for the human spirit to explore anew with a good volition. Consider very well if in the past earth life you were a king and you had many people who had to serve under you. Now you have, or then you had committed all sort of atrocities. Now in this earth life, you're not aware. First, if you are aware completely, your earthly brain is completely aware, the likelihood is to say, no, I still want to be a king. In that case, how can you then make amendments? So, to a large extent, it is a blessing, an opportunity to start and make amends on those atrocities that you yourself had committed. Secondly, it is another new opportunity to see things so very differently. If you had been a slave driver at that time, and now you have incarnated in an area where such things are being practiced, and even on you will come to resent it and will fight it vigorously and strive to free others. In such a way, you make atonement. So, not being permitted as such to have full picture of what one has done in the past, to a large extent, is a blessing to enable you to start afresh, as if from a clean slate. As with the words that the returns are slow, the returns are not slow at all. For when that activity was committed in the past earth life, if it impacted on the spirit knows and it drags it down. It becomes heavy. So the impact is immediate on the spirit. However, when one has set things into motion, such activities gather to themselves that which is homogeneous. It gathers homogeneous thoughts, homogeneous intuition, homogeneous activities. It takes time to gather, depending on the environment. After all, when you sow a seed of orange, You don't reap that orange the same day, neither within a week or within a month. Depending on the type that you yourself have sown, the returns will definitely come, but in their own time, depending on the species. However, here in the world of matter, experiences struggle to get through. You yourself, many have seen that when you watch thunder and lightning, the thunder and the lightning took place at the same time. The lightning you can see first, yet the effects of the noise comes later. Many have experienced that because the lightning is much faster. So also depending on the species, that which man himself has been involved with or has triggered, it will return to the source in accordance with the laws of motion, which laws of motion are the laws of creation, the laws of nature, where the end flows back to the beginning. The end flows back to the beginning so that the human spirit may come to a recognition and in the experience matures. It holds it within itself. So the laws or the mills in nature, in creation, may be perceived to grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly very, very fine. Whether the mills return your speech, your thoughts, your deeds, or your intuition, definitely the returns will come. But when they will come depends on the species, on the gathering of the species. Again, even when these returns are to come, the human spirit spark, if it has so improved itself to such an extent that is able to sense what must have happened in the past and has made amends, the possibility is then created where it will become only a symbolic redemption. It could be a simple advice to your neighbor or a simple rearrangement of your house or a kind word here or a kind word there in such a way that the returns have come. But because you yourself have so improved yourself, you are unable to see it as any punishment, but joy in being able to assist others. For again is the law, he or she who receives of the blessings of radiation in creation, in nature, must make use of it and then mediate it to others. Just as others who are more matured than yourself in higher realms mediate to you in their recognition, so are you also to mediate to others.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer to the listener's question. And I hope it has helped them to, let's say, open their eyes and, give them a direction to how to see these laws, how they work, and what is, how we can respond to them. So thank you for that, Gregory. Now, in this show tonight, we've, let's say, gone here and there, but I just want to remind us the topic we having discussion tonight is there is no limit in your journey to perfection. Now, this word limit, now early on, Gregory, we recognize that we human beings are spirit beings, and spirit is a eternal being, you can say, and so the journey, you could say, is also eternal. But then you're looking at this word limit, and you say, what limit are we talking about? Is it, well, there wouldn't be a limit if you're living eternally. That's one limitation not there. Then you're thinking, oh, is the world that you are, we say, experiencing, is there any limitation in your experiencing? So I'm just looking at all these things, Gregory, to come up with the last question to ask before we end the show. So when we talk about limits in our journey to perfection, there is no limit. That's what we're saying. What do we mean? What is the experiences that we are meant to, how can I say, experience in terms of, let's say, is it, Gregory, you already mentioned we are living on the earth, and, we obviously pass on into another world, and then, let's say, our aim is to, and become from unconscious to become conscious to self-conscious. This is part of our journey. So, and then this world where we are unconscious, you could say, we are becoming conscious. This all this happening on the earth, and then we move on into the beyond. Even we've just discussed about reincarnation. We can come back to this earth and continue our journey in that way too. So my question is, Gregory, what do we, when we talk about limitless or no limit in our journey to perfection, is it mean because the journey is eternal, or is it the world is that we are going through is eternal? Or I use the word eternal because of comparing it to no limit. So what do we mean in a way? What is this no limit in our journey to perfection?
Although it has been stressed again and again that perfection, the picture one may hold to help, is the completion of a task. If in the initial state, the first step is for the human personality to start as an unconscious spirit seed grain, descending into, from its origin, the paradise of mind, there being unconscious as a seed grain, has not got the form of man, but within the capabilities needs to develop into that. The first step is to become conscious of its environment. In that process, it develops the form of man. Then, in that sense, it has accomplished the task perfectly, completely. It doesn't stop there. The second task is to develop itself to become self-conscious. It means those abilities which have been endowed within it is able to use them consciously, not only to its own benefits, but also to the benefit of creation, of nature, of others. If it goes along or it journeys along such a path, the time factor granted is able to return back to paradise as a self-conscious human personality. It is now a personality which is able to experience and be of help to others, just as others who were more matured were of help to him. So it continues. There's no limit. Because others have been of help to him, now is of help to others continuously. It doesn't stop because it has gone back as a self-conscious human personality. He gets to paradise, folds his hands, and does nothing. There is work. The world without end. If, however, is unable to develop itself to become self-conscious, of course, within the time limit, it returns back to paradise. This time as an unconscious spirit gem. Then the possibilities granted to it to become useful seed in creation, the efforts, the resources have been in vain. For it has now lost the human form and reverted back. Such will not participate in the conscious or in the never-ending experience, because it's going to start from afresh. How long it takes, that's a different scenario. So the scenario which you yourself mentioned is that scenario where the human personality has developed itself aright in accordance with these laws of motion. Many consider that, oh, the human spirit is on its own. That has never ever been. There has always been some urgings. Ask yourself, from where did these urges come? These are only urges which have an impact on the fledgling human personality, which urges have come from those who are more matured in the higher realms, who in their selfless activities are always prepared to support the human personality as it wanders through the world of matter, as it wanders through the animistic. The human spirit has never been alone, but its task is first to be awake to the streams of intuition, of power that has been granted it to be able to experience and to become a useful tool in creation.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for these words that you have spoken. We've come to the end of the show, dear listeners. I want to end with the reading from the Grail Message. Now, the topic for tonight was, there is no limit in your journey to perfection. And this was inspired by a lecture, some words in the lecture in the Grail Message. And the lecture is called Consider What is of Benefit to You. Consider what is of benefit to you. So I'd like to read a couple of sections to end the show from this lecture. This is actually, you could say, the first page, and let's say first page and a bit, and then I'm continuing it on the third page and jumping to that just to read this, how we were inspired to have this topic for tonight. So the lecture in the Grail Message is called or titled, Consider What is of Benefit to You. Why, you men, do you always wish for something different spiritually from that which you really need and which will really benefit you? This peculiar characteristic is spreading among all seekers with devastating effect of a serious plague. It would be of little avail for me to ask you about it, for you cannot account for it yourselves, even if you would exert yourselves to think about it day and night. Just observe yourselves in all calmness for once. Consider the questions that come to life within you. Follow where your train of thought leads to, and you will soon recognize that for the greater part it always concerns such spheres as you will never reach, because they lie above your origin, which you will therefore never be able to grasp. However, it is a basic condition that you must be capable of grasping everything intended to benefit you. Make this clear to yourselves in all your thoughts and deeds, and adjust yourselves accordingly. Then everything will also become easier for you. So only deal with that which you can really grasp, i.e., that which is anchored within the compass of your human existence. Towards the luminous heights, there is a sharp limitation to the sphere in which you have the capacity to be conscious as a human spirit. But it is not small on that account. It offers you room for all eternity, and therewith fields of activity that are correspondingly great. The possibility of your development alone is without limits, manifesting itself in the ever greater perfecting of your work within these spheres of activity. Therefore, observe very closely what I am revealing to you herewith. There is absolutely no limit to the greater perfecting of your spiritual activity. There is no end to it. You can become ever stronger in it. And with this becoming stronger, the sphere of activity will always automatically expand, as a result of which you will find peace, joy, happiness, and bliss. In the past, everyone has also formed a false idea about this. This lies solely in the radiant joy of an activity which is full of blessing, and not in the lazy idleness and indulgence, or as the false is cleverly concealed by the expression in sweet idleness. For this reason, I often call the human paradise the luminous realm of joyful activity. The human spirit cannot obtain bliss in any other way but through joyful activity for the light. Through this alone will the crown of eternal life be finally bestowed upon it, granting the guarantee to the human spirit to be eternally permitted to cooperate in the cycle of creation without the danger of falling into disintegration as a useless building stone. I'm going to now jump a bit further down in this lecture, and I'm going to continue there. And it says, it simply could not be otherwise, and with the same unswerving certainty with which over a long period already you have been gliding towards destruction, you would see yourselves uplifted by the same power leading to spiritual wealth and trouble-free earthly life. But first, you must know your home in creation, and also everything that helps and furthers you. You must know how you yourselves have to wander and work in it before the blossoming can begin. Try, first of all, to adjust yourselves aright in the earthly sense to the vibrations of the divine laws, which you can never circumvent without bringing great harm upon yourselves and upon your surroundings. And also make your laws accordingly. Let them arise from this, and then you will quickly have that peace and happiness which furthers the upbuilding for which you so long much. For without this, all effort is utterly in vain, and even the greatest ability of the most skilled intellect is useless and brings ill success. It lies with you alone, with each individual, and not, as you much like to delude yourselves, always with the others. Try it with yourselves first of all, but this you do not wish to do, for you imagine yourselves too superior for this, or it appears too small and incidental to begin with. In reality, however, it is but the indolence of your spirit which is capable of keeping you back from this, and to which you have all enslaved yourselves for thousands of years. Your intellect, which bound the facilities of your spirit, can no longer help you, when it is a matter henceforth of either humbling yourselves before the pure power of God, or of perishing. You must rouse your spirit, awaken it within you in order to recognize the will of God and hear what it demands of you. For since the very beginning, man is subject only to this will and to none other. He must now render account to this will for everything he did in the part of creation that was lent to him for a home. I'm going to end there the reading from the lecture, Consider What is of Benefit to You, from the Grail Message. If you wish to get more information on the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. I hope you've enjoyed the discussion tonight on the topic of there is no limit in your journey to perfection. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing them a beautiful week.
Thank you. And hope, listeners, we did it a little bit extended show tonight. Hope you have enjoyed it. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday with another topic from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Good night.